Welcome back from the break, Rams, and to this week's edition of the Red Zone. I'm Sydney Wicker.
And I'm Ethan Bird, and I'm very excited because today we finally get to talk about something we have not been able to talk about on our show yet, a Broncos win.
Yes, Ethan, the Broncos got their first win of the season, and it was on the road. What is one key thing that you saw from the Broncos that will help them going into this upcoming week?
It wasn't so much anything that happened this week, but it's going to have to happen next week against the Titans. You got to keep those sack numbers up. You've got to produce some sacks. Let's take a look at some of the plays I picked out from this Sunday really quick. There we go. See, we didn't get any sacks, but pressure on the quarterback. This one ended up in a completion from Phillip Rivers, but this is the biggest one to me. The Broncos will line up with a four-man rush and put pressure on Phillip Rivers, and that'll lead to an interception that kind of turned the tides of the game. And here's another one, pressure on the quarterback that leads to the end of a drive at the end of the game. And the Broncos are really going to have to increase that production in order to be successful against the Titans.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Phillip Rivers still had 211 yards against the Broncos passing, so he was able to work in the air a little bit, but he did have 2 interceptions. So the Broncos were able to create a little bit of chaos on that defense, and I think they really need to work on stepping it up and being more aggressive, especially since they're down with Bradley Chubb.
And I think where you saw a little less in the production of sacks was because of Bradley Chubb. But one of the things that I think that Fangio is very good at when it comes to defense is getting young guys in there and getting them motivated to play. And you saw some of those guys on Sunday, and I thought it was really, really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. But my key takeaway is going to be continuing to establish this run game. Looking at the Broncos, Phillip Lindsay, he had 141 rushing yards, and Royce Freeman was right behind him with 61 rushing yards. So they were really able to get the ball moving, as we can see right here. Nice run by Phillip Lindsay. And they were really starting to work with this offense. We've seen Joe Flacco struggle so much with this offense.
Absolutely.
So I think having that run game truly be established is one step in the right direction.
Well, and one of the biggest things you can look at is the difference between Phillip Lindsay's numbers this last week and his numbers 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville. Against Jacksonville, he only had 9 rushes and 53 yards. He never saw a touchdown. This past week, 114 yards and a touchdown. And that just goes to show you that when the run game is going and when Phillip Lindsay is at the head of it, Phil is a playmaker, Phil is a game changer, and the Broncos will win games if they trust Phillip Lindsay.
Yes, absolutely. But with that being said, you can't trust the run game to win you all of your games. You have to have an effective run game, but you also have to be able to throw the ball and make, a clean offense.
I have to agree with you on that one.
At least we're finally agreeing around here.
Yes, we'll see what happens at the end of the show, though. That was a big week for the Broncos, but a bigger week for CSU football. After a loss to San Diego State this weekend, head coach Mike Bobo announced that the quarterback position is now open. And yesterday at practice, coach said what he was looking to see.
In practice, and hopefully that'll carry over to the game. I'm not looking to draw it out, this week, but we could go in the game playing more than one guy. I don't know.
Now, the biggest thing to take away from Bobo right here is how much this looks like last year. The rotation between KJ Carter-Samuels and Colin Hill in the 2018 season was just the start of the fall for the Rams.
We told them both were going to play. I decided to make a change, and both of them did some good things, both of them did some bad things. And we got to have guys help them, make catches. There'll be competition at that position. There's going to be competition at every position, and we'll figure out who's going to start going forward.
Listening to Bobo talk last year versus to what he just said this year, I find it really interesting that at this point in the season, both last year and right now, they were 1-4 on the season. So not much has changed for the CSU team in the past 2 years.
Well, it's almost like deja vu, except this time it hurts a little bit more because of Colin Hill. And I know I said it last week, but I'm going to say it again this week. The Rams were just way too dependent on Colin Hill's health. He had already torn his ACL twice. They're like concussions. You're more likely to tear it again the more you tear it and the longer you go. And that should have been something that Mike Bobo was planning for. And right now, it feels like it wasn't planned for at all because Patrick O'Brien, I mean, he put up a lot of numbers, but this last week, he did not look like the guy to lead the Rams. And then Justice McCoy comes in, he throws 2 interceptions. So this feels worse than the point we were at this time last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, Colin Hill was coming off of his injury, but now this year, we just see a quarterback carousel. What's going to happen between these quarterbacks? How is the offense going to be effective? Last year when Bobo was talking, he was saying that he was so disappointed in his team's performance and that they weren't looking good. Then they went on to take on San Jose State, which they barely beat. They let them come back in that third quarter of that game last year. And then they barely beat New Mexico 20-18. They have New Mexico this week coming up. I don't know how it's going to be much different for the Rams this year than how it was last year.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. This game against New Mexico is as up in the air as any game that we've seen this year. And that's because of the quarterbacks. If you don't have a solid quarterback, who is going to lead your team? Who's your team going to trust? Who are the fans watching the game going to trust? Because if you're a fan and you're watching 2 different quarterbacks throw passes throughout the whole game, you don't even know what's going on. The team doesn't even know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Bobo is making a huge mistake here because when you have this quarterback carousel, it's making its rounds and it's confusing your offense. Who does the offense trust? Who do those wide receivers get in sync with? There is no connection when you're constantly changing your offense and you're constantly changing your quarterback. So I don't know if this is really going to be effective for CSU. We'll really have to see how it goes this weekend.
That we will. We're all looking forward to Saturday. Well, now, the 15th ranked CSU Rams are hosting Fresno State at home. And of course, we have this week's volleyball watch list. So who do we have to look out for, Sid?
Yeah, so coming in for the Bulldogs, their outside hitter, Desiree Sukov, is leading Fresno State with 241 kills. She is tied for set points with 57, and she's leading her team in errors, though. So Suhawk could either be a huge advantage or she could really hurt her team going into this game against the Rams.
And next up for me, we've got Brianna Runnels. I mean, how could we not talk about her? She got her 1,000th kill in a Rams uniform back on the first against Wyoming. And in that game, as you can see, she had 29 kills in that game. That's a career high. She also got 30.5 points. That's a season high. With 200 kills and 87 digs, Brianna Runnels, as always, will be an absolute force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah, Brianna Runnels is incredibly difficult to shut down. She's so tall, she's so effective, and she's so strong. The way she hits the ball and is able to put power into the team, she is a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, could very well be one of, if not the best athlete on this campus. And it has been so fun to watch her play. But looking at Saturday, when the Rams host San Diego State, CSU is going to need to look out for Victoria O'Sullivan. The outside hitter for the Aztecs has 204 kills, 31 blocks, and is hitting at a pretty impressive 26.7% on the season. The Rams are going to have to slow her down in order to beat San Diego State.
Absolutely, and for the Rams, Katie Oleksak now has 529 assists this season. She's helped her team with 75 set points, and she's not only been a key for the Rams on the court, but she's also been a leader for them this season. Oleksak is a very dangerous opponent and someone you should always look out for when you're getting ready to match up against CSU.
Well, I think what was fun is we both highlighted 2 very offensive players.
Yeah.
But as of now, CSU is second in the nation in blocks per set and at 3.08, and also opponent hitting percentage at 1.05. So what that means is that throughout this whole season, CSU's opponents have only been hitting 10.5% whenever they attempt to kill. And defense wins championships, and that's what this Rams team is doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This Rams team is so effective offensively and defensively. And these next 2 games they have coming up, I mean, they struggled a little bit when they were in Wyoming. Wyoming's a hard place to play, especially when you have the border war on the line. But they did go to 5 sets there, and then 4 sets against Air Force. They dropped both of those first sets in the beginning. So it'll be really interesting to see how this Rams team kind of bounces back and if they can get another sweep like they've been doing.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't expect it to happen because they're at home. And Rams play best at home. And finally, Rams, it is time for Tell Me I'm Stupid. So, Sydney, please tell me, am I going to be calling you stupid this week?
Well, Ethan, I don't know, but I know you're very passionate about baseball. So, Ethan, I think the MLB season is just way too long.
Oh, Sydney.
Way too many games. It's way too long.
Sydney.
No,
How could
don't
there ever
shush
be
me.
too much baseball? Come on. Of course I'm going to tell you you're stupid here. I mean, it kind of hurt to watch 162 games of Rockies baseball this year. Wasn't the best. However, baseball is just the best time of the year. You've got the summer, it's warm, there's baseball, I'll say it again, there's baseball, so how could you not want 162 games of baseball? Yeah, it feels a little bit long, but I mean, that just means you're a fake fan, I guess.
I mean, baseball has never been my favorite sport, but 162 games, really? That's much more than any other team plays. This is why football, to me, doesn't get as boring, because there's only once a week you get one game for your team, and it's just not as much. I feel like it just takes out part of the fun and can really exhaust the players, and that's part of what we've seen from, especially the Rockies this year. It's been a lot of sloppy play. I know you're a fan of them.
Sloppy play. It's America's pastime. Of course, we have a lot of games.
Well, Rams, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for you this week. But to stay updated on sports throughout the week, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at sports_CTV. I'm Sydney Wicker.
And I'm Ethan Bird, but don't go anywhere because we have Maddie Steele, who's filling in for Janae Hancock. But don't worry, she has all the gossip on the Kylie